Hello YouTube and welcome to SPL Top Secret episode. In next couple of future video I decided to share with you my personal experience about the way how I design my future audio systems, and in episode number 1 we're gonna start with electricity and power. So let's figure out how many batteries and which chemistry you can go with and how you actually can count it. And first of all, let's figure out what audio system we're gonna build. And let's say in our system we're gonna have one amplifier for the tweeters, which is 50.2 with 100 watt RMS power. Then another one, let's go with something crazy like 1500.2, and the third one for our bass we're gonna use something like 4000 watt, so which is totally power of 7100 watt. Let's write this down, 7100 watt. So what we need to do is to find out how many ampere hours we needed to support that amount of power. What we're gonna do, we're gonna follow the formula where is amperes equal our power 7100 divided by our voltage. And of course guys, depending on the what chemistry you're gonna go, you can bring different type of numbers, but most common one is 13.2. Let's go with the 13.2. We're gonna divide it by 13.2. Let's count it. So totally we're gonna have 537, and those 537 we're gonna divide it by 2. So why? Because we all know that impedance in our system gonna rise, and in my personal experience I know that there's no system where impedance rises less than 2 times. So then we're gonna divide our amperes on 2. So divided by 2, totally we're gonna have 268 ampere hours. So now we need to find out the electricity that's gonna be able to support our 268 ampere hours. And of course guys, this is really roughly numbers, is not exact numbers, because there's a lot of different specification which is really difficult to find before you actually build your system. As of impedance grow, also depending on the frequency, the ampere hours will be changed. So it's really roughly, and of course guys, it's just like kind of stuff to give you the idea how you can count it. So now let's move forward. Now we know that we're gonna have 268 ampere hours, 268 ampere hours. We're gonna write this down. And of course guys, we also have to pay attention that there are top ampere usage. So during the continuously usage we don't need that much power, but again guys, there's no way to figure out how many amperes your system gonna be eating during the whole hour, because we listen to music, so the frequency will be changed all the time. Now we're gonna just save this number. Start with more basic batteries as of AGM technology, AGM. So what do we have to know about the batteries and how to decide which battery is good for you? So first of all, we have to know charge and discharge rate, which is the most important, and of course the capacity. Let's say our single battery gonna have 100 ampere hours capacity. So the charge rate usually on the AGM battery, but all those specifications might be different. You have to do your own research when you decide to go with the AGM battery, because each single brand has a different specification. So usually, let's say as of example, the AGM battery can charge with the current 0.2 up to 0.5 C, and might be higher, but it's not recommended to charge with a over than 0.5 C, which is 20 up to 50 ampere hours. Now the discharge rate in AGM batteries can be 0.5 C and can be up to 3 C. But here we have to know that in case if we're gonna grab 3C output from our AGM battery, we cannot use 100% of the capacity. It's gonna be only 50% of the capacity. So which is totally gonna be 150 ampere hours. And of course, because I wanna overkill and to make sure that I don't have any electricity problem, I'm gonna go with this specification to make sure that I'm gonna use my nominal discharge rate, which is 50 ampere hours. So now let's count how many batteries do we need to support our audio system to make sure it's going to be in the best possible shape. And again, I just took really basic stuff. In case if your specification on the battery are going to be different, you're going to be needed less battery. But that's just as of example. So now let's write it down. AGM battery 5. Now let's go with a lithium battery. But first of all, we need to find out the same specification as we did for the AGM battery. And let's say in a lithium battery, typically the charge rate will be also in about 0.5 up to 1C. That's recommended to make sure you're not going to damage your battery and going to last longer. So it's going to be up to, let's go, 100 ampere hours as well. So it can be 50 up to 100 ampere hours of charging. And the discharge rate can be from 3C up to 810C. So what that's mean is that from this battery, and in this case we're not going to use 50% of the capacity, because in a lithium battery we can use up to 89% of the capacity. So but we're not going to count that. It's going to be too much headache. So now we know that the nominal we can get 300 ampere hours from our lithium bank of 100 ampere hours, which is mean that to get our 300 ampere hours we're going to be needed only one battery, which is enough. LTO. Same thing, guys. Here we have two different things. First of all, the charge rate on a LTO can be up to 5C, and discharge rate going to be about 5C up to 15C. Again, guys, as soon as you're going to start searching your battery, double check all those specifications, because I use it as of example. So charge rate 5C, that means that our LTO bank of 100 ampere hours we can charge with the current up to 500 ampere hours. And discharge rate can be up to 500, from 500 up to 1500 ampere hours. And here in this point we have to know one little different thing, that in case we're going to be able to grab those 1500 ampere hours, we cannot grab that during the whole hour. So our capacity will be changed and going to be much less than in case if you're going to use your discharge rate of 5C. So, but that doesn't mean that you needed only like half of the battery. So if you're going to go with the 30 ampere hours, that will be enough for your system, because you're not going to have enough capacity. So, but in the same time, we're going to write it down as of one battery or section will be enough for that system. But again, you're going to dry it out real quick. Our main question and main charging source is our alternator. How to figure out which alternator is going to be good for our set of batteries. And of course, first what we have to know about the alternator, that the alternator is going to have efficiency, different RPM and different specifications. So let's say our alternator is going to be 100 ampere hours. What do you have to know? That you're going to grab maximum 80 ampere hours, and most likely those 80 ampere hours, 100 ampere hours in the specification going to says as of maximum output with a 5000 RPM on the engine. So that's mean during your idling you're going to get only 50% of the alternator output, maybe less than 50%. So it's going to be about 40 ampere hours, maybe less, but let's count it as of 40 ampere hours. Again, guys, depending on the alternator, you can research all that information specifically with the alternator that you decide to go with, or in case you're just simply going to Google what manufacturer alternator do you have, or you can simply measure that. So it's not that difficult. So now what do we have to know? That in case if we're going to use 5 of AGM batteries, and we also know that the charge rate of each battery can be up to 50 ampere hours, supposed to be between 20 and 50. That means that we can charge our battery from 100 ampere hours power up to 250 ampere hours. That's maximum current that we can charge our 5 AGM batteries. So in case if you have a smaller system, less than 268 ampere hours, and you're going to have less battery, that's not necessarily to change your alternator, because in case if you're going to charge with the current over then those numbers, let's say it's going to be 0.2 or 0.5C, you're pretty much going to kill the battery little by little. So, and again, guys, specification, double check all specification. That's just an example. So in my opinion, that's the best formula to find out how many batteries do you need for your audio system. And yes, guys, keep really huge attention on the capacity that you have left, in case if you're going to go with a smaller battery with a better output, because capacity is also really important part of the specification. So in case if you're going to have less capacity and not enough alternator to charge your system, you're going to have huge voltage drop. So I hope you like this video. I hope you're going to use that formula. So, and again, let's write it down. The final formula that I personally use when I start searching for the new battery is going to be ampere hours equal watts RMS divided by voltage equal AH. Those AH we're going to divide by 2. And that's our final result. Alright guys, I hope you liked this video. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.